Welcome to Friday, the 28th of January. Always great starting the day with you. This is the AM Report. I'm Mahenda Nyati.
And I'm Michelle Craig. A very good morning to you indeed. Rustenburg Girls Junior School is rebuilding its brand. Killing two birds with one stone, the school celebrates its 128 years of existence and International Education Month under the theme of transformation and diversity. Now, the school, as you know, previously embroiled in a race row for firing its only black teacher. It's now implemented a diversity and transformation plan employing more black teachers and other staff members. Nasipi Same is there for us this morning. And Nasipi, as we introduce the story, the big question, of course, that comes to mind is that this is long overdue. Why has it taken Rustenburg Girls this long?
Well, Michelle, I have the principal here, Belinda Petersen, who will be definitely answering that question. And as you rightfully put it, the school implementing that diversity and transformation a policy following having employed a consultant following that 2018 racial row, following that firing of Nozipho Mthembu, the only black teacher at the school. And we do know that she was also a former student at the school. But I'm joined here by the principal, Belinda Petersen. Thank you so much for your time. 120 years of the school's existence, and only now, employing, or rather actively employing people of color.
Yeah, I think, look, the school has a wonderful, rich history, obviously lots of traditions. And yeah, I think we are making some strides. I think as a country we are making some strides. Sometimes it feels like it's a little bit too slow, but we are definitely working towards that, putting policies, putting practices in place. Because it's one thing diversifying our staff, we also need to ensure that our staff are supported as well through that process. So, yeah, it's a continuous working process, if I can put it that way.
I mean, 28 years into democracy, you have about 30 staff members who are of color out of the 90, and you speak about the support of staff. And the former teacher here, who was the only black teacher, spoke about the lack of support. So how are you going to be supporting those staff members of color?
I think it's really about building a sense of community, because obviously we don't want people to feel like they're being marginalized in the opposite sense of the word, sort of being dealt with separately. We actually have to deal with the entire staff together in understanding what diversity is, what equity is, how do we go about becoming a community that is truly transformed, not just in what we say, what's in our policies, but actually in the way that we treat each other. And so it is actually about working with the entire staff around developing those practices and those attitudes, because that's really when transformation is happening. So yes, it is something that we are very conscious of, and I'm very grateful to our governing body, our current governing body and previous governing body, who put a lot of things in place to develop our human resources practices, spent a lot of time developing our policies. We've also had an HR consultant assisting us with that, with our anti-racism policy as well. And so I really feel like we have sort of the framework in place, and we're now working at the practice and the attitudes and beliefs that go with that.
Your tenure fell just months after the racial row of Nozipho Mthembu, the only black teacher that was fired in 2018. You were employed in 2019. What challenges have you had to encounter, taking up office at the school following that incident?
Yeah. Look, I think in any school it's a challenge. Every school has its own contextual challenges, and I think for me, just stepping into the space, I was very welcomed. But obviously there are lots of things with every school that we need to work on and improve. And really it's about building that sense of community and ensuring that people feel like they belong here. And we often just speak about the learners, but it's also about the staff, that all our staff feel that they're part of the staff, that they have an equal voice, that they can share what they think, but that they feel a sense of belonging here. that they don't feel like they are marginalized or isolated or their voice doesn't matter. And so for me, that is really important, is ensuring that there is equity. And so it's a continual, as I said, it's a work in progress, and we are very intentional about it.
Speaking about intention and making everyone feel like they belong here, how is the diversity and transformation policy trickling down to the learners?
I think as teachers and as staff generally, because it's non-teaching staff as well in schools, I think we've just become a lot more aware of the smaller things, the little things that we might assume is not that big or not that important, like being able to pronounce names correctly and practicing that, you know, because a name is someone's identity, and even for a child. So that was something that we focused on last year, is actually taking the time and effort to learn children's names properly, to learn other staff members' names properly, to pronounce it correctly. And it sounds so small, but it's actually not. So it's in those things that we're also trying to address things. And as there's this, I think it's so, there's so much to address. And we are very conscious of that we can't sort of fix everything in one go. And so we are working on those things. We're working on ensuring that our girls have access, but also what does that access mean? So if they have access to sport, do they have the necessary equipment to be able to play that sport or cultural activities? So it's not just about diversifying in terms of the numbers, but it's also about diversifying and giving access in the broader sense. And I think that's where we as a school are focusing on, not just the numbers. It's not a numbers game for us. It's actually the attitudes, the beliefs, the core of what we are doing, and to build that sense of community and sense of belonging.
Thank you so much, Belinda Petersen, there, the principal of Rustenburg Girls. Speaking on the issue of, celebrating the 128 years of the school's existence, and why only now we are seeing the school taking a more conscious approach in employing, staff and also support staff of colour.
Nasibi, thanks very much indeed. Let's stay in the Western Cape this morning. Premier Alan Winde has